Well, presidential campaign debates were invented by and for TV. 1960 wasn't just the first televised presidential debate, it was the first. George Washington never debated. Abraham Lincoln famously participated in the Lincoln-Douglas debates, but that was in a Senate campaign that Abraham Lincoln lost. We had 34 presidents in a row who never debated to get the job. If you're around 70 years old, you can actually remember seeing every presidential debate in history. That's how few there have been. You could have seen every one of them, and not one of those debates has actually been a test of anything presidential except demeanor. And the only presidential campaign debater in history who has failed the basic demeanor test is Donald Trump. The debate rules are always absurd and test nothing about the job of the presidency. The rules tomorrow night are typical. They say, quote, "The debate will begin with a question, with candidates each allotted 2 minutes to respond. This will be followed by 1-minute rebuttals and responses to the rebuttals." In the job of the presidency, the president is never forced to give 2-minute replies or 60-second replies about anything, ever. There's an especially ridiculous rule for tomorrow night's commercial breaks. There will be 2 commercial breaks, and the rule says campaign staff may not interact with their candidate during that time. That could not be more childish and unrealistic. Presidents always can confer, not just with their staffs and the cabinet, but with the very best experts in the world on every subject at any time for as long as they want. A better way to do this tomorrow night would actually be to allow the candidates to have as many staff as they want join them on the stage throughout the debate and make sure that all of them have microphones. And the candidates should be allowed to turn to their staffs and confer with them about anything at any time in the debate. And we should be able to hear everything they say, so we can hear if the candidate has competent or incompetent staff. We could hear the candidate overrule some advisors and say something else. We could watch the candidates actually think and process information, including possibly information that they might not know until a staff member tells them or reminds them. A candidate should be allowed to let staff members actually answer questions for them, just as the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, answers questions on behalf of the president around the world, as has every Secretary of State in history. That's the way the presidency actually works. The presidency does not involve oral exams and memory quizzes. The president is allowed to forget what the marginal income tax rate is on couples filing jointly with an income of $150,000. There's always someone in the room who knows the answer to that kind of thing, which, by the way, is 22%. And I don't know that because I used to write tax law and I memorized all the tax brackets. I know that because I just looked it up. That's the way governing works. People are allowed to look up whatever fact they need whenever they need it, and they're allowed to forget those facts when they don't need it, because they'll always be able to retrieve those facts one way or another when they do need it. Or they should always be allowed to ask nearby experts or advisors for that fact. That's the way it works. That's the way it works for senators. That's the way it works for presidents, members of Congress, mayors, city councilors. Faithful viewers of this program with good memories might remember me issuing a version of this complaint about presidential debates and how absurdly unrealistic they are, how they have nothing to do with the job, because I have issued a version of this complaint about the debates every 4 years at least. What we will see in tomorrow night's debate is yet another example of just how unfit for the presidency Donald Trump is. Donald Trump will lie, and we know that he will lie because we know that he will speak and it is impossible for him to do one without the other. There's a new rule in tomorrow night's debate, which hasn't been tried before. Quote, microphones will be muted throughout the debate, except for the candidate whose turn it is to speak. That should be called the Trump rule. That rule was obviously written to try to keep Donald Trump under the kind of control that all presidential debaters before him have been capable of imposing on themselves. Tomorrow night's debate audience could be the biggest television audience that the candidates have this year. And on the eve of the debate, former Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger, who served on the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol, for the first time in his life, endorsed the Democrat for president.
I'm Adam Kinzinger, and I'm a proud conservative. I always have been. As a proud conservative, I've always put democracy and our Constitution above all else. And it's because of my unwavering support for democracy that today, as a proud conservative, I'm endorsing Joe Biden for re-election. My entire life has been guided by the conviction that America is a beacon of freedom, liberty, and democracy. So while I certainly don't agree with President Biden on everything, and I never thought I'd be endorsing a Democrat for president, I know that he will always protect the very thing that makes America the best country in the world: our democracy. Donald Trump poses a direct threat to every fundamental American value. He doesn't care about our country. He doesn't care about you. He only cares about himself, and he'll hurt anyone or anything in pursuit of power. We saw that when he tried to overturn an election that he knew he lost in 2020. He attacked the foundation of this nation, encouraging a violent mob of his supporters to march on the Capitol to prevent the peaceful transition of power. Now he's become even more dangerous. He's called for termination of the Constitution. He wants to be a dictator on day one. He actually said that. And he's continuing to stoke the flames of political violence. There's too much at stake to sit on the sidelines. So to every American of every political party, and those of none, I say now is not the time to watch quietly as Donald Trump threatens the future of America. Now's the time to unite behind Joe Biden and show Donald Trump off the stage once and for all.
Andrew, your reaction to what the Supreme Court did not decide today and what they did.
So let's just start with the Snyder decision, the one that you're reading, the dissent from that Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote. It is something I really commend everyone to read. It's written in plain English, and she takes the majority to task. And I had the exact same reaction that she was speaking about the Supreme Court itself, both to Justices Thomas and Alito in terms of the money that they have taken as public officials, but also to them in terms of saying, you know, you say you're originalists when it's convenient. That's this idea that we're just going to only look at the text. And she says, okay, let's look at the text. The text is a congressional statute that says it's illegal to pay bribes and to receive bribes and to get rewards. And she says, that's it. We're done. I thought you were a textualist. So that's why she says only this Supreme Court. This is supposed to be just interpreting congressional language. It is not a policy debate in the Supreme Court. And she calls them out saying, you are having a policy debate and you lose even on the policy debate. I mean, who on God's green earth thinks it's fine to take a reward? As long as you take the money afterwards, it's fine. Just don't take it before. But that's now the law based on this Supreme Court. And then obviously the court did not issue its immunity decision. I'm going to quote Paula Poundstone, who said, I can't wait to find out from the Supreme Court whether a president can kill someone. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just so absurd that this was not decided 6 months ago when Jack Smith asked the Supreme Court to rule. So this is one where the decision is the delay. Yes, we will get a decision, but the decision's actually the fact that it is taken this long because Jack Smith is going to have one heck of a time trying to get this to trial before the election.
Andrew, to go back to the bribery case, it was $13,000 after the fact of a $1 million contract to the company. So let's just change the numbers. Let's just say it's a much bigger contract to a much bigger company, and it's $1 million. We'll just give you $1 million a couple of weeks afterwards. The Supreme Court says, no problem.
Absolutely. And Ketanji Brown Jackson goes through those facts and says, you've got to be kidding. He gave out, it was actually over $1 million in 2 contracts. And then this public official shows up the door and says, that's going to cost you $15,000. And the company sort of nickels and dimes it down to $13,000. And then when law enforcement comes and says, what is this? He lies repeatedly and comes up with a whole series of false stories to account for that money. Why? Because he knows it's illegal. And she's saying, you've got to be kidding. Even if you think that there's some areas in this law that could be vague, where there's some applications to some people where there may be a claim, it's not him. Mm-hmm. And yet they have now basically said, you know what? You're all for sale.
And Donald Trump wants to make all of that money tax-free because Donald Trump's out there in Nevada saying he wants to make tips tax-free. You don't have to include tips in your tax returns. So now he's saying if you're a public official, someone gives you $1 million after a deal, that's yours too. Keep it all.
It's just a tip. And the idea that this is something that you have Justice Alito and Justice Thomas voting on, just like they're going to be voting on the January 6th case, it tells you just the sorry state that the courts are in, which is supposed to be one of the bulwarks, one of the key checks and balances that is supposed to be sort of a crown jewel of our democracy. And you can understand why the court's newest judge, Ketanji Brown Jackson, is taking them to task in language that is strong and deservedly strong.
Yeah, that line, only this court could love, that's not normal Supreme Court justice language.
Yeah, no, it is clear that she has gotten there. And remember, she served on the district court in D.C. She served on the Court of Appeals in D.C. with judges who are conservative, judges who are moderate, judges who are liberal. And to me, it reads like she can't believe that she's seeing such disingenuous conduct by her colleagues.
Donald Trump has been complaining bitterly and publicly, we've seen him do it, about the teleprompters that don't work at his campaign rallies sometimes because Donald Trump is completely dependent on teleprompters to remember things like our next guest's name. Watch him struggle.
With your help, 5 months from now, we're going to win Wisconsin. We're going to defeat your radical left Democrat senator, one of the worst in the Senate. Nobody even knows she's a senator. I mean, frankly, she's not doing a good job representing. We have somebody that's going to be great. But we're going to defeat your Senator Tammy Baldwin.
That name was in the prompter for him just in time. In that speech in Wisconsin, Donald Trump insisted that living in Wisconsin is better than living at the ocean because the ocean has sharks. And then Donald Trump introduced someone to the audience who, like Donald Trump, lives at the ocean where there are sharks.
I mean, what's better? Being with you right now. Look at that beautiful lake. That beautiful lake. Beautiful, right? What's better, this or sitting on the Pacific or the Atlantic, which has sharks? You don't have sharks. See, that's a big advantage. I'll take the one without the sharks. We're pleased to be joined today by many incredible patriots, including the man who is going to help Wisconsin reverse every single Biden disaster, your next U.S. Senator. And this guy is central casting, Eric Hovde. Eric, stand up, Eric. Come on up, Eric.
And the weird thing about Eric Hovde, candidate for Senate in Wisconsin, is that he lives in Southern California on the beach. He lives as close to the sharks as you can get. Joining us now, Wisconsin's Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin. She's running for re-election in the United States Senate in 2024, and she actually lives in Wisconsin. Senator, it doesn't get crazier than what we just heard. I know it must bother you that Donald Trump has to struggle for your name and doesn't know who all 100 senators are and doesn't know, what he's talking about when he's talking about you. But what were you thinking when you saw that?
Well, first of all, the shark comments, oh my gosh. So I don't believe that my opponent agrees with Donald Trump about the sharks, because recently, last week, he skipped out of a Wisconsin event to go back to his private beach on the Pacific. But Lawrence, the most important thing that Donald Trump did say on that rally stage in Racine was that if he wins Wisconsin, he wins the presidency. And I know that Wisconsin is the battleground state. We could easily decide who controls the White House, who controls the Senate. We could even help flip the House in Wisconsin. But look, when I hear those comments, I don't work for Donald Trump. I work for the people of Wisconsin. And while my opponent was busy fawning at Donald Trump throughout that rally, I'm fighting for my state. But look, my opponent is a California bank owner. He's a multimillionaire. He is self-financing his campaign. If he and Trump win, they could pass a national abortion ban. They could cut Social Security and Medicare. They could nominate and confirm more extreme judges throughout the country. We cannot let them happen. But if I'm going to win, I need everyone's help. Please go to TammyBaldwin.com and chip in whatever you can to help us fight back.
And we also know if Donald Trump were to get the Electoral College again via Wisconsin, that he would easily make a deal with Clarence Thomas, 75 years old, to step down from the court, from Samuel Alito to step down, both in their mid-70s, both of those men, and put on 40-year-old judges who will be there for the next 40 years to go in even more extreme directions on things like marriage equality and other issues.
Right. It shows you that with the stroke of a pen, our rights can be protected and our rights can be taken away. This week, we observed the anniversaries of two major cases. On Monday, the Dobbs decision that took away half of Americans' rights and freedoms, and so that we have fewer than our moms and our grandmothers had. We also today celebrated the Obergefell v. Hodges case, which granted marriage equality. And I think about the joy and relief that I felt when that decision came down. Earlier today, I was with a couple who were the first to be married 9 years ago today in Dane County, Wisconsin. And they talked about how securing those rights to see one another in the hospital, if they, the visitation rights that come with marriage, the other key rights and freedoms that flow with marriage. So we know that when we have courts deciding these critical rights and freedoms, we have to make sure that we have a Democratic president and a Democratic Senate to make sure that we don't see more cases like Dobbs in the future, because they made it clear in that case they are not stopping there.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn, MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.